Good morning and welcome to the 1SPATIAL PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Claire Milverton, CEO. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the introduction, Lily. I'm Claire Milverton, CEO of 1SPATIAL, and I'm joined today by Stuart Ritchie, our CFO.
Hello.
The order of today is our interim results to the 31st of July 2024. So we're going to, first of all, give a brief overview of 1SPATIAL and the highlights. Then I'll hand over to Stuart, who will take us through the financial review. Then back to me for areas of focus and opportunities, then summary and outlook, and then some time at the end, around 15 minutes for Q&A. Before going into the overview of 1SPATIAL, I thought it was worthwhile just spending a few minutes setting the scene about where we are on the 1SPATIAL journey. 1SPATIAL, over the last 5 years, whilst I've been CEO, we've really been focusing on transitioning this from a bespoke software company to a company that's focused on repeatable solutions and really growing annual recurring revenues. And we've had some really good success of this. And in the period, you'll see that our annual recurring revenue has tipped over from less than 50% to more than 50% of our total revenues. And while we've been going through that transition process over the last 5 years, we've also been using the resources from that, our cash and our own financial resources, to develop our cloud platform and develop some really key transformational SaaS solutions, including OneStreetWorks. And I'm going to come on to that in a moment. And this is what we've really been doing with our business. And we now think of our business in two key parts. First, our enterprise business, which is really the core of what we do today. And it gives us real expertise in what we do. It gives us good reputation and it's given us the financial resources to invest in the SaaS-based solutions. We are leaders in location master data management, and our market's leading software for location master data management. And it's all about helping customers with location data. That is key to what we do. Location data is more complex than your standard data. And we help our customers make critical decisions from that location data. We have over 1,000 customers and we have industry-leading partners globally. And as you can see from the pie chart at the bottom, we have moved over into that 53% of annual recurring revenue. And we have a good spread of revenue across our regions. And key growth areas are in the UK with StreetWorks and in the US. So that's our enterprise business. And that is really what you see of the business today. But on top of this, we've got these two new high-margin SaaS-based solutions with huge annual revenue recognition opportunities. They've got huge market opportunities. In the StreetWorks, there's a 400 million market opportunity for low-speed roads. And in the US, there's a 350 million market opportunity. These are pure SaaS revenues with 80 to 90% gross margin. And we really are creating a light version of our solutions. It's available at a lower price point via our cloud, and it considerably expands our addressable market. And I mentioned earlier, we've really been investing in this over the last 5 years, and it's cost us approximately £5 million to get to where we are to date. So that's a brief overview of our business. But what have we been doing in H1? Well, we've had a really successful H1. We've been growing our ARR and we've launched those SaaS-based solutions. So just starting with the enterprise business, we had a good level of new customer contracts. We signed the State of Oregon, Yorkshire Water, Hunter Water in Australia, and that's our first Win Integrate win in Australia. And we've delivered on the milestones of contracts signed in previous years. Many of you might have remembered the National Underground Asset Register that we're creating with the UK government. We've expanded with many of our other key customers, such as Google, Ordnance Survey, Caltrans, and a major European aerospace company. And we've also taken out 1 billion of annualised costs, primarily from Europe, and Stuart will talk about this more in a moment. But importantly, we've launched these SaaS-based solutions that we've been developing over the last 5 years, and they've started to get our first revenues in from this. We've had 5 contracts won in the US for NG911, and we've had 5 paid-for trials in the UK for 1StreetWorks. And in the UK, we're in the final stages of contracting a significant licence for 1StreetWorks. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see some key stats around our revenue. Revenue growth of 11% in the period, and key, that recurring revenue recognised in the period has gone up 24%. We've also improved our gross margin in the period to 52%. And I'm now going to hand it over to Stuart, who will take us through the finances.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Claire. So to give you an overview of the financial performance in H1 24, ARR is continuing to grow in line with the strategic objectives that we've set for the business. And within that, the term license ARR has grown the fastest at 27%. We've also seen an improvement in gross margin from 50% to 52% compared to the same period in the previous year. Claire mentioned the cost savings that we drove through the first half of the year and the impact that they will have on the second half of the year and into the new financial year, FY25. This represented 1 million restructuring cash savings effective FY25 and related to primarily the European development area. It related to old products, and the cash that we will generate as a result will be reinvested into the strategic priorities of the business for the next half of the year and into the new year and beyond. There is a high level of renewals scheduled for the second half of the year and a very healthy pipeline going into the second half of the year as well. So we expect an improvement in the cash performance in H2 and an increase in the performance overall at a revenue and EBITDA level also in H2. As Claire mentioned, we're in the final stages of agreeing our 1StreetWorks annual license for a significant potential new customer, and we are confident in the delivery of the FY24 market forecasts. Move on to the next slide. Thank you. So in terms of highlight figures compared to the same period in the previous year, we reported 15.5 million of revenue, which is up 11% compared to the same period in the previous year. Importantly, the component that is most significant is the 8 million of recurring revenue that we reported this year, which is a 24% increase from the same period in the previous year, which shows that we are executing our strategy. As Claire previously mentioned, our recurring revenue has tipped over to 53%, so it's above 50% for the first time. At the end of FY23, it was at 49%, so that's a really important milestone for the group. As a result of these new term license sales, which have really accelerated the revenue recognition compared to the same period in the previous year, our gross profit has improved by 16% compared to the same period. At an adjusted EBITDA level, we have the amount that we reported in the first half of the year has decreased slightly on the previous period, and it really relates to three main items: the reinvestment that we've seen in the sales team and the development of the new SaaS product offerings that we've seen. About 300,000 of exchange rate variances that have been adverse in the first half of the year, and we've seen about 200 to 300,000 of increases in inflationary costs across our operating expense base. For the period ended 31st of July 2023, therefore, we've reported a loss of 300,000 after exceptional costs. We reported 390,000 of exceptional costs, which relates to the restructuring that I previously mentioned. So a marginal profit in the first half of the year, the difference between the same period and the previous year, mainly relating to FX related items. Moving then on to the cash performance. So there were some significant events that led to cash outflows during the first half of the year, and I'll highlight some of these. So if I take them bottom to top, 500,000 of restructuring costs relating to the restructuring activities that we completed in the first 6 months, an increase in the amount of development that we've seen across the period compared to the same period in the previous year. There were some heads that were taken on in the second half of last year, so we see the increased cost there, and that relates to our strategic priorities, so our cloud platform and our One Streetworks opportunity. The cash generated from operations is mainly timing. There's a decrease of 700,000 compared to the same period in the previous year, but we've seen the cash flow in from that in Q3, and we expect further inflows into Q4 as the recurring revenue and the term licenses renew during the second half of the year. We have an RCF facility of 3 million. It was drawn to 1.1 at the end of July. We expect a rebalancing in the cash, and we expect to repay that facility by the end of the financial year. The 1.9 that remains in the facility is sufficient to cover our working capital requirements for the rest of the financial year. In terms then of regional revenue, across 3 of our regions, we've seen a growth in revenue. So significantly in Australia, Claire mentioned we recorded our first One Integrate sale in Australia, which is really encouraging. The US continues to grow, particularly at a term license level, which is one of the strategic priorities of our business in one of the most important geographies that we have. And the UK business continues to improve also, with the sale of new One Integrate, One Data Gateway licenses. In Europe, we've seen a slight decline in revenue compared to the same period in the previous year, and that was really due to a very strong performance in Europe in the same period last year, the sale of a lot of perpetual licenses which haven't reoccurred. We've got some significant opportunities in the pipeline in Europe, with one of the most significant opportunities in the first half of the year closing with a water company in Belgium, which was a 3 million deal over 8 years with 240,000 of recurring revenue. So some really good performance indicators in Europe as well. As Claire mentioned, we're quite diversely geographically spread with a huge opportunity there in the US, which we'll come on to later in the presentation. So in terms of recurring revenue and our revenue profile, we can really see an improvement in the quality of the revenue that we're reporting for this half year versus the same period last half. So the momentum and the direction of travel that we're seeing is really, really encouraging for me. So we reported 8.2 million of recurring revenue in the first 6 months compared to 6.6 for the same period last year. It's also worth noting that our recurring revenue is now being generated from some very strong renewal across all of our territories, which I'll come on to in the next slide. So from an annualized recurring revenue perspective, which is the annual impact of all the recurring revenue that we've reported in the first 6 months of the year, I noted that we've got a renewal rate there of 94%. We've got some products, as I mentioned, in Europe, which are older, and we've taken some decisions in the first half of the year to restructure that operation somewhat and use the cash that will be generated to reinvest in the strategic priorities of the business. Encouragingly, though, we can see that there's growth in recurring revenue across the majority of the business with a slight drop-off in Australia. Overall, though, our ARR growth across the business is 10%, which is really a really encouraging growth level and in line with our expectations going forward for the enterprise business. So to summarize, some of you may recognize this slide from the previous deck. We've now moved slightly along the curve, and with the significant opportunity that we have in the One Streetworks operation and the state of some of those contracts, we expect to move continually along the curve over the next 12 to 24 months. So we're in a really excellent position going into the second half of the year and beyond. with some really exciting opportunities that we're looking to capitalise upon in the next 6 months and into FY25. So I'll just hand back to Claire then for the next section, which is areas of focus. So
Thanks very much.
Now. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Claire.
Thanks very much, Stuart. So yeah, now going to look to the future, areas of focus and opportunities. And there really are multiple avenues for growth. Firstly, with our enterprise business, which is the heart of 1SPATIAL and our competitive advantage. And then we have the two SaaS solutions, one Streetworks, which really does have a near-term transformational growth opportunity in the UK, and then the NG911 SaaS opportunity in the US, and really expanding our US opportunity. So starting with our enterprise business, this is the business that we have today. This is the business that has cost in it that's related to the Streetworks and all the other investments that we're doing. And it really is the core of what we do and our competitive advantage. And we have some technology called One Integrate, One Data Gateway. And we principally serve the sectors of government, utilities and transportation. And we really are seen as market leaders in enterprise projects, but where location data is key. So not product data, not customer data. And what our software does is automate the process of bringing together data from different sources and then maintaining that data for the long term. And you can see in the future that more and more of this is required as people want to use expert systems, digital twins, AI systems. It is so important to have accurate data into those systems. Otherwise, the information that you get out of those systems will be incorrect. This whole garbage in, garbage out concept. But also, we really underpin national assets. And we've chosen, again, as I make the point earlier, because of our expertise in location data. So we're helping the UK government create an asset register of all the utility pipes, all the gas, all the electricity cables underneath the UK. And that's a project we won a number of years ago. And that project is still continuing over the next year or so. And we've worked with the likes of the state of Michigan, helping them create a map of the state from all the different cities and counties. And all our existing customers do have significant expansion opportunities. And we see that this enterprise business will still grow. We'll have targeting 10 to 15% growth in UK and Europe and 20 to 30% growth in the US. Each state we see growing to $1 million of annual recurring revenue. At 50 states, that's a 50 million annual recurring revenue opportunity. And importantly, this enterprise business provides us with credibility, insight, and capital to launch SaaS-based solutions. So this, just to summarize, is really core, will still get focus from us despite the SaaS solutions, because it's the technology and everything in this that will power and drive the SaaS-based solutions. So now coming on to the first of our SaaS-based solutions, where we really do have a transformational opportunity in the near term. So One Streetworks is all about traffic management plan automation. And in the UK alone, for low-speed roads, there is a 400 million annual recurring revenue opportunity. We are the first solution in the market to fully automate the production of traffic management plans, significantly reducing time and costs for those preparing traffic management plans. And just to give a quick recap for those who haven't been on one of our presentations before, what a traffic management plan is. On the left-hand side there, you can see a picture of roadworks, all the cones and all the traffic lights that are set up. If you want to dig a hole in the road, you have to create a traffic management plan, which sets out all the cones and all those traffic lights. And you can see that plan there. That is a 1SPATIAL plan picture there. And if you want to do roadworks, you have to apply for a permit from the local authority, and you have to submit one of these traffic management plans, which will then allow you to go and do this. So in the UK at the moment, there's 2.5 million roadworks a year on low-speed roads. And this is estimated to increase to 4 million over the next 3 years. And this really is in response to the electrification of the UK to drive net zero. So putting electric car chargers, heat pumps for houses. But it's also because of the rollout of new telecoms fibre. So our addressable market is really increasing. So just to come back to some of the attributes of our revenue. So this is pure SaaS revenue. It's not just hosting, it's not just term license, this is pure SaaS revenue. One installation of traffic management on the cloud platform and access to all of that user base. There's no services. It's quick to access on one platform to maintain. So it will drive very high gross margins, much higher than we're currently getting from our enterprise business. And we're targeting in the short to medium term, 25% to 30% market share. We have 5 trials underway, which are all well received and ongoing. And we're in the progress of signing our first significant annual license. So just to give you a bit more of the shape of our pipeline and the sector. So there's 4 key customers for this. You have local authorities, utilities, traffic management companies, and maintenance companies. And we have trials going on with 1 local authority, 3 utilities, and 1 traffic management company. And as you can see, we've got pipeline across all of those 4 sectors. We have 5 trials underway with 30 in pipeline discussions. But focus currently for us has been on securing our first significant annual license, providing us with a clear return on investment that we can demonstrate to future customers. Once we've got that, we'll then consider really growing out the pipeline of those 30 opportunities that we have. And each deal has the potential to be between 100,000 of annual recurring revenue and 3 million of annual recurring revenue, with potential for future expansion. And you can see on the left-hand side a quote from someone in one of our trials. It's easy to use and simple to uptake in the business. I was talking to one of the trial customers only a week ago, and they said to me, Claire, this is a game changer for the industry. His words, not my words. So our second SaaS opportunity that we've been building and funding over the last 5 years, which has another transformational opportunity for 1Spatial, is for the NG911 in the US, where there's a 350 million annual recurring revenue opportunity. And this solution is around taking our enterprise solution that we currently offer to the states for emergency services and offering that out as a lightweight cloud solution to the cities and counties. And a quick recap as to what that solution does. In the US, if you make a call to the states and it's an emergency, they have to determine which public safety answering point will go to that emergency. And you can see a little map down on the left-hand side. If you have incorrect location data, you could have a scenario where emergency services from 2 public safety answering points could go to 1 emergency. But in a worst case scenario, maybe you had a gap in your location data and you wouldn't have an emergency services go to that location. So it's really important, and this is about saving lives. It's really important that location and addressing data is accurate. And that's what we're helping the states with at the moment. We have 9 states that are currently using our enterprise solution for location data. Now that is around 500,000 investment for the state, 200,000 to 300,000 of annual recurring revenue and services for the first year. But that's quite a lot of money for cities and counties to take in. So what we're doing is taking that, fantastic solution that we're winning in the states and pushing that out to the cities and the counties, of which there are 23,000, which gives us our 350 million annual recurring revenue opportunity. And there is funding for this. There's 500 million funding for next generation 911 products projects. So just come back to the attributes of the revenue. It's very similar to Streetworks. It's pure SaaS solutions, no services, quick to access, one platform to maintain. Gross margins of 80 to 90%. And we're targeting a 10 to 15% market share. And we've secured 5 contracts within 4 months of product launch. So there is rapid adoption. And we're looking to augment the offering with an Esri integration, which will drive adoption, which is looking to be released in Q4. So we see the Streetworks as being a much more near-term big impact to our profit and loss account. But we also can see this as a huge opportunity and something that we're going to be driving along parallel, but potentially this will have more impact in a year or so. But both the Streetworks and the NG911 are really important to our growth strategy. So as a business, we are at an inflection point. We have a sales-focused team. We have compelling offerings, particularly the SaaS offerings with huge addressable markets. We have growing recurring revenues in our enterprise business. And specifically from the SaaS-based solutions, we will have significantly growing recurring revenues. We have multiple avenues for transformational growth, and we are therefore confident in delivering our FY24 results in line with expectations. We really do have innovative product suites opening up considerably new TAM. And, there's compelling annual growth rates. And what I would say as a final comment is that we are really absolutely focused as a team, Stuart and I and the rest of the organisation, on operational execution now. We really want to get in this first SaaS deal for traffic management and then really expand the opportunity there. And that's it for the presentation. So now I'd like to take some Q&A.
Claire, Stuart, thank you very much for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab situated on the top right-hand corner of your screen. Just while the company take a few moments to review those questions submitted today, I'd like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. As you can see, we have received a number of questions throughout today's presentation. Can I please ask you to read out the questions and give responses where appropriate to do so, and I'll pick up from you at the end.
Stuart, are you able to share the questions? I'm not able to see them on the screen at the moment.
So Lily, can you help share? Can you help Claire see the questions, or shall I?
Yeah, you should see a blue chat button at the bottom of your screen.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
Open it up. Perfect.
Right. Shall we?
Yeah, we can kick off.
Go to the top. Okay, you can answer this pre-submitted question, Stuart.
Yes, fine. So the question is, how long do you think it will be before we start paying a dividend, and when do we expect the company to be debt-free? So in response to the second part of that question, we expect to be debt-free at the end of the year. That is the first part of the question. And then the second part of the question is, when do we expect to start paying a dividend? So I guess during the course of this presentation, we talked about the strategic investments that we're going to do in 911 and in 1Streetworks, and I guess the focus in the near term certainly is going to be reinvesting any profits that we make, or we're going to be reinvesting a significant proportion of our resources back into those products to make them an absolute success. So we will probably start planning for dividend payment after we've got a proof point and start signing some of these contracts. That will be something that we consider. So that's the first one.
I just wanted to chip in there, Stuart. I think the revolving facility, but I think we still have a small amount of debt in Europe just for a year or so, if it's not significant.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. I was talking about the revolving facility. Yeah, there are some longer term loans in Europe, and they will be repaid within the next 3 to 5 years.
Do you want to take the next one about the 1 million? I think we've already addressed this.
Yeah, I think we have. I'll read the question out and then just provide a response to it. So in the results, you simultaneously talk about investing in the sales function and saving 1 million from non-revenue generating activities. could you put a bit more colour on these statements and expand on the non-revenue generation bit? So I think we sort of addressed that during the course of the presentation. The £1 million of cash savings that we were talking about for FY25 related to the development team and some of the development team that were responsible for the older products in Europe. And the cash savings that we expect to realise as a result of these savings will be reinvested back into the strategic priority, so the SaaS opportunity, and that's that. Investing and then investment in the sales function. We'll continue to invest in the sales function to capitalise on those opportunities.
So the next question is about the light version of NG911, some background how the emergency services are structured in terms of the city versus county versus state would be helpful, and how NG911 slots into this. Also selling NG911 to smaller entities, but presumably that implementation cost rises as a percentage of contract value. So I did give a brief overview in my presentation about NG911, but it's really important that the cities and the counties have a sort of have mirror image of the data that's held at the state, so the call routing can be done efficiently. We produce a enterprise version of our NG911 solution for the state, so they have the rules for making sure the NG911 data is accurate. But as an enterprise level, we will add them some additional rules that they might want to make do some additional things with their data, and they will plug it into their own system. So there is more that we would offer to the state, and it's on a sort of project by project basis for the state. The cities and the counties will submit data up to the state on a regular basis, and that's what we provide is the cleansing of that data through our One Integrated One Data Gateway for the state. What we're offering to the city and the county is to take just the vanilla rule set, not the extra bits that we offer to the state, and put that into the cloud and make that available for the city and the county. So what that offers at a very low cost basis for the cities and the counties that don't have the massive funds of the state, and the pricing is between sort of £7,500 per year per annum and £30,000 per annum. It allows them to take control of their own data, and they can drag and drop their data up to our cloud platform as many times as they want during the year and get a report back, and they can clean their data on the back of that report. They can submit it up again, get a report back and clean their data. So what we're giving to the cities and the counties is a very low cost ability to check and take control of their own data, rather than they send it up to the state when they could be, bottlenecks, get the data back, check it. It just enables them to take control. And when we've spoken to the cities and counties, they really want that. They really like the fact that they have that opportunity themselves. And it's so low cost. I think, it's almost like a no-brainer. We just need to figure out along the next few months how we're going to scale that. And the idea of implementing it within the Esri platform is one where we hope will scale. Also working with the states, how can we help them? They help us get the cities and the counties to adopt it. So there's lots of ways we're going through. As I said, it's not as far forward as the Streetworks, that we see that more as a near term, but we think there's lots of opportunity for the NG911 SaaS, and we've got good traction, 5 deals in 4 months without really doing that much. So back to the profit margin one. Back to you, Stuart.
Yeah. So the profit margins, I think I spoke to this in my presentation anyway. While the gross margin has increased comparably compared to the previous period, the EBITDA margin has actually dropped, and the reason for that is because of the investment that we're currently doing in the new product set. So, and the costs that are associated with those. So with these types of things, we are recruiting to make sure that we are best placed to execute on all the opportunities that we're generating from the roadshows and all the interest that's been shown by the industry. There were a couple of other items that led to a decrease in the EBITDA. And one was the FX. So we have some exposure in the US, and as the US currency moves against the pound, that yields sometimes losses, sometimes gains. So last year we benefited from gains, and this year it was about 300,000 of an exchange rate loss. And then inflation. So we're seeing some inflation across our cost base, particularly around sort of the operating costs of subscriptions and various other sort of professional fees, legal fees, and all that type of stuff. So it's sort of in line with where I would have expected in terms of where the market has landed, particularly in view of the backdrop that we've got on inflation. But yeah, we have seen some increases in costs compared to the same period in the previous year.
So number 6, I think Europe. I think Stuart, you covered Europe. It doesn't really. It's not as high growth margin as some of the other territories, but we're actually we're pretty okay with it. It's growing. There was just the perpetual licenses from last year, so I think we've had some good contract momentum. So it's not the standout star, but I think it's okay.
Yeah, and it's developing profit and cash for us, and that any incremental cash will be reinvested in the strategic objectives of the business, which you talked to in your final slide, Claire. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think we've covered. Do you want to say anything on this next question, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the cost restructuring program, I've talked about that. I mean, it's the cost that we've taken out of the European business, the development side of things. And we're looking to reinvest that in the business. So I don't think really there's anything else to say, sort of in conjunction with the answer I've already given in the presentation that we went through. So,
do you want to read out this next question 8, Stuart?
Yes. Ability to make price increases stick. Have we adjusted our pricing strategy, and are we meeting resistance? I guess no, we're not seeing resistance. We're not seeing much resistance. Either we negotiate our multi-year deals, the prices are fixed. In terms of the prices that we've negotiated for renewals that we've seen in the first half of the year, we haven't seen any resistance actually to the price increases that we're looking to pass through to the customers to sort of to cover the exposure that we have to inflation in the services sector. So no, we haven't seen any of those. I mean, I think it's fair to say, and we talked about our renewal rates at 94%. It's fair to say that we've got such a high renewal rate. Our products are so well liked by our customers that actually, even if there was a slight price increase, I think that they would be able to manage it, given that everybody is seeing inflationary increases across all sectors. So no to that one.
Okay, number 9, a question about our pricing on One Streetworks. What is the pricing strategy? What are we doing around the pricing? Are we underpricing it? We've looked at the pricing of this extensively as a senior team and the team in the industry. We think we've got the pricing right for what we want to achieve at the moment, and it will constantly be under review, but we are very happy with our pricing strategy, and Stuart is in all the contract negotiations, and this is a first product to market. We're breaking ground here. This isn't business as usual. We have to do some things to get this off the ground, but once that's off the ground, then we can make different potential pricing decisions. But we are 100% happy with how we're pricing this.
Perfect.
So the next question is to me and you, Stuart. Can you tell us more about the opportunities in SaaS? NG911, $350 million opportunity. One Streetworks, 400 million. What progress has been made to date, and how much can be done, and when? So on the NG911, we've already said we've got 5 deals already in the line, contracted. We've got growing pipeline. That the 10 to 15%, that's in the short to medium term. So I'd say in the next 2 to 5 years, we'll be targeting 10 to 15%. The One Streetworks, 400 million. Again, bit more advanced than NG911 in terms of timeline. I think we've got an opportunity to get more market share in it because there's no competition with what we do. And again, that 25% to 30%, I can see that in the next sort of 3 years or so. I don't know if you have any, and we've got a good pipeline on that, which we've already been through. I don't know if you have any other comments on that, Stuart.
No, I don't. I mean, I think it's fair to say that, as you said, we're making a market here, and in the response to the previous comment, our progress is exactly in line with expectations. We're significantly advanced, and as Claire mentioned, I'm involved in all of the contracting discussions and negotiations, And we're very excited about the opportunities that we've got currently in the pipeline.
Another question here from Vishal. 2 questions for Streetworks. Significant clients to be assigned. 1, how many solutions did they look at before settling on your offer? And 2, you also mentioned 5 paid for trials in your commentary. Would some of these be potential clients to similar scale to the one you're currently expecting to sign? Okay, good questions. They didn't look at a solution. There isn't no other solution in the market for what we're doing. This is where we're disrupting a market. We're having to go into these customers and say, see this. We can improve your time spent. We can help you get credits from the regulator or stop paying fines. We're creating a market there. This isn't something that comes out on an RFP. So so that's why it's very different. It's not business as usual. So they didn't look at anything else. But as we're proliferating our solution through the market, people are coming to us and say, actually, we want to use this. So it's us first to then get the customer in, which is why it's so exciting. The paid for trials. Yeah, so the paid for trials, I'd say we've probably got, as we said, 1 that's very near, in the final stages of sort of signing. I'd say there's another 2 trials that are fairly advanced, and we get good visibility. We think, there's a good opportunity for a lot of this pipeline to close out over the next 12 to 18 months, and we'll be signing up more trials, building more pipeline. We're very, very confident. We're very excited about the opportunity here and the ability to deliver on that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
David B, this is one for you. I think we've already covered this. Any implications on revenue for the cost cutting? No, because it's pretty much from development costs in France.
Yep.
Vishal, with regards to the new head of sales in the US, please you can provide some colour of the background of the individual. In addition, maybe some colour of the shape of the pipeline in the US be very helpful. Thanks. Yeah. So the individual in the US has come from a geospatial background. They're very good seasoned professional in sales and really about building teams. So we've got a fantastic business in the US. Our CEO out there, Sheila's really developed this business. From 1 customer to 35 customers, she's really still involved in it. But we need to scale that now. And the guy that we've brought on, we think is really good at developing teams and helping Sheila scale that business out there. They're a really good double act, and we've got a good US and we've got a good pipeline in our enterprise business. But again, we really want to start building that SaaS solutions for the NG 911.
Absolutely.
David B, number 14. This is probably one for you, Stuart.
Yep. Do you have sufficient buffer of cash/debt facility to execute the strategy? Yes, we do. Absolutely, we do. Yep. So the plans continue to invest in the business, and we've got enough cash, and we've got enough in the way of planned receivables to be able to execute on that strategy. No problem.
You have a very wide spectrum of propositions. Any of them potentially to convert to cloud SaaS? Yes, potentially, but that's not our focus at the moment. We've got to stick to we've got such a big opportunity with traffic management. We've got to stick to that. It's all about operational execution. So we're running a little bit out of time, so I'm going to try and quickly flick through some of these. The data typically remains the client's. Are there opportunities to exploit this data collaboratively with the client? Potentially, but again, I would just say in the interest of time on this, we could have a big discussion about it. At the moment, we're very focused on the traffic management and rolling that out. Andrew J, you make a big point of growth opportunities in US states. Would that be displacing an incumbent supplier, or is it applying a new need? I would say there's probably 3 things for the NG 911. Just the cities and counties doing a lot of it themselves, with old systems and homegrown systems that you can't really do now with the data and the NG 911 regulations and 3D data and occupancy buildings. So there's that. A little bit maybe from an incumbent supplier. And, to an extent, it is a new need because the regulations under NG 911 are much more onerous to the end user customer than they were previously. So probably 3-fold on that. Are there similar propositions to Streetworks and other geographies? Yes, we're looking at that, but not a priority at the moment. It's back to operational execution on the UK opportunity. David B, gaining adoption for something new and novel offers encounters barriers. Yeah, barriers have you experienced? Yeah, a little bit. That's what's taken the time. I think we would have hoped that some of this would have been out earlier this year. That's why we got a lot of costs in our business. We've not the revenue yet, but we're overcoming those barriers now. We're knocking down the barriers one after one after one. And that's why we're really confident going forward. We've been working so hard at this. I've had my traffic management experts working with those trials, looking at all that pipeline. We really feel we know what all of them now. And it's not necessarily about having to, restructure. There's credits from Ofgem. There's fine savings from the regulator that basically stack up the business case now. So we don't even have to do structural changes. It's all backed by cash. Stuart, last webcast, you said you were going to buy some shares. What happened, Stuart? I don't know.
I haven't bought any yet, but I will buy some before the end of the financial year. We had closed periods. We've had we've been very, very busy, as I'm sure it's very apparent. But after we get out of this next period, I will definitely be buying some before the end of the year. I'm very invested in this business, and I'm really excited about all the opportunities. I think we're going to be a great success. So absolutely, I'll be buying some.
And then David B, great update. Hope to see you at Mellow. We are potentially coming to Mellow. Actually, that's something that's on our agenda for Stuart and I to discuss. So
absolutely.
Very much. I think we're done.
New head of sales. Oh yeah, we've done the new head of sales. We've talked to that one, I think. Yep. Yeah, I think that's everything, isn't it?
Claire, Stuart, thank you. And I think you've addressed all those questions you can from investors. And of course, the company can review all questions submitted today and will publish those responses on the Investor Meet Company platform. Before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to yourself and the company, Claire, can I please just ask you for a few closing comments?
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks everyone for your time today. Thanks for the questions. As I keep coming back to, we've got a fantastic opportunity. It's all about operational execution now. We have to capitalise on the opportunity there. And from an investor perspective, there's just lots of upside, but I would say, minimal downside. The opportunity, the TAMs, everything there is very, very exciting.
Claire, Stuart, thank you for updating investors today. Can I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete and I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of 1SPATIAL PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.